بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين Ameen. We greet our listening audience with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to look at Surah or chapter 50, verse 16, and verse 16, 17, mostly 16 and 17, and 18. 16, 17, and 18. Chapter 50. We begin, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge from the rejected Satan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Walaqad khalaqna al-insana, and this is laqad, showing strength. And what we're saying, it's an affirmation that we created the mankind, humanity, al-insan. We created humanity, wa na'lamu, and we know ma, what, tuwaswisu bihi nafsuhu, what his soul, nafsuhu, what his soul, tuwaswisu, whispers, bihi, whispers to it, goes back to al-insan, whispers to him. وَنَحْنُ, and we, أَقْرَبُ, we are closer, إِلَيْهِ, to him, min habli, than the rope, al-warid, the rope of the jugular vein. That's literal. I'm on literal translation. We will talk about it though. When يتلقى المتلقيان, when the two recipients, we could say, they received the information, we could say. We're talking about keeping in context with the whispering. The soul whispers to it. And there are two recipients who receives on the left, on the right, and the left. And you could say they are sitting. Qaidun, they are sitting. Some of the Muslims, I'm sure you have heard about the angels sitting on your right side, on your left side. They're the two angels that's recorded recording your actions as though they're writing your book. They're writing down your actions. And some say that when we make the salat and you make the salams, you're making salams to those two angels. That's what some say. But the word here is mutalakiyani. It's not the word for angels, but this is the idea that's given. Many times when there are, we could say, forces that are in nature, and we don't understand those forces, we give them the name of angel. Until we understand those forces, then we give them their names. And we no longer call them an angel. So, because we may be limited in our knowledge of what's being said here, so we give these forces the name angel that are recording our behavior. That we all are like a book. You know, we all are a book, and things that our experiences, things that we're doing will be written, and in the last day, or in the day of judgment, we'll be given our book. Our book will be read to us. Everything that we do. Also, we know that we are bodies of knowledge, and that's how we should see each other more so than we see each other in our physical picture. We should see each other in our knowledge picture. That we're actually books. We're bodies of knowledge. And when we receive knowledge, we should receive knowledge and put it in the context of the body of knowledge that we are. Then we can express those ideas, as we can say, with our own words, based upon the context of this body of knowledge that we have accumulated, that becomes us, instead of saying things without understanding them, or it's just not you, as we would say. So these are ideas here that I'm going to be presenting today on this verse. Not that I know what is being said in this verse, but it's a very popular verse, in that we are closer to you than your jugular vein. This is Allah speaking. And without us getting somewhat spooky about the angels, because what we're going to be looking at is language in terms of science and language in terms of religion. When I'm saying religion, meaning in the form of a metaphor or figurative speech. And the last part, the last verse, Ma yalafizu min qawlin illa. So when we use ma and illa, we would say only. Ma and illa would be only. So he only preserves a word, ladayhi, that is with him, being rakibun atidun, meaning the one who is rakib is like the warden, the guardian, and atid is one who prepares, who's preparing the writing. He's preparing the writing, you could say, for the future. So this could be, according to Tafsir, referring to Rakib, but there's no way. But they would say this is Rakibun wa Atidun. meaning these are the two. One is being very watchful, and the other is preparing the recording. That is with the al-insan. So it's a very broad verse, as the Qur'an is. The Qur'an is a very rich writing. When we're looking at it literally from the Arabic text, it says a lot. But like I'm saying, we're going to concentrate on وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We are closer to him than his jugular vein. Okay, so let's look at some of the tafsir that will help us out in terms of what is being said. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ. And surely we created mankind, and we know. حَالٌ فِي تَقْدِيرِ نَحْنُ. So he's being grammatical here. He's giving a grammatical explanation that this na'lamu here, na'lamu, is a verb, and he's saying that it's in the place of a condition with the implication of we. So we created, he's saying, and then na'lamu will be the condition in which we have created. As though this is, we know for the students, we know we have in the accusatives of the noun, we have the condition, how. So in reading Quran, sometimes the verb is used in the place of condition. Na'lamu, wa na'lamu. That we, as we created, we know. So here, we're going to see that knowledge is the context, we could say, that we're looking at in the verse. Because we're going to look at the idea of Quran, Bil Quran, how the Quran defines itself. That's a way to read the Quran from the Arabic text. Notice how it defines itself in the context within itself. So, in terms of knowledge. So we created mankind in terms of knowledge. Ma is masdariya. Now, he's saying it's masdariya, meaning masdariya is like an internal noun. That's the phrase that we use in with the Mali classes. We would call it the internal noun, the masdar. Masdariya is internal noun. However, if you read a book, they may call it a verbal noun. They may use the term verbal noun. I don't care to use the term verbal noun, because when you're dealing with beginning students, it would be confusing to talk about verbs and nouns, and now you have a verbal noun. But there are three words: verbs, nouns, and particles. Those are the three basic categories. So there's not a verb, noun, and then a verbal noun. A cross between a verb and a noun. So I rather use the term internal noun, masdar, because you see here, sadrun or sudur, we know the word sudur is the chest or the heart, where the heart lies in the chest, the heart of the meaning we get from masdariya, the heart of the meaning of the word. So, what he's saying here is that this ma, because we want to know what's being said. So if we read this, we're not lamu, and he's saying if not lamu is an adverb, and we'll have to go back to the verb, khalaqna, then it stops here. The thought will stop here. Then we say, Ma tuwaswisu bihi nafsuhu, then we could be saying that his soul does not whisper it, or his soul does not whisper to it, if this ma was used in the sense of a negation. So he's letting us know it's not a ma of negation, it's a ma masdariya. Ma has different functions. So be ma masdariya. Or ma istifham would be what? What does his soul whisper to it? But it's not that, it's the mad. Therefore, ma masdariya means that the mad becomes the object of not lemu, but not lemu mad. And this becomes an adverbial phrase where not lemu mad, based upon what he's saying here. Then tuwaswisu bihi nafsuhu becomes the relative phrase of mad. That's why he's going to say that whisper tuwaswisu, he's saying is tuhaddithu. Tuhaddithu means to speak. He speaks. So, in this sense that he speaks what he speaks, his soul speaks to him. Or we could even say occurs within him. So here, this bihi, he's going to say, the bat is za'idah. Za'idah means it's there to increase, it just increases, or we say it's redundant, the bat. And then or it is for lil ta'diyah. Lil ta'diyah meaning it's used for to make it transitive, to make the verb transitive. So the verb being tuwaswisu, to make tuwaswisu transitive, the be is used with it, so it becomes transitive. وَالضَّمِيرُ لِلْإِنسَانِ, and the pronoun goes back to insan. So the pronoun here will go back to insan instead of going back to the man. He's given us this information so when we read it, we will understand what is being said. Otherwise, when you just read it in the Arabic, and this is the idea of when we start reading the Quran ourselves, for yourself. Grammar is very important because it's the Quran and you can't assume what it says. Now, all grammarians don't agree always on every point in terms of these words and what's being said and what's understood. That's why the life example of Muhammad the Prophet, the prayer and peace be upon him, becomes very important because he demonstrates the Quran. So you would have to really study his life, the life of Prophet Muhammad, to understand what's being said of the Quran. That's the first source for understanding the Quran is the life of Muhammad the Prophet. So you can see how very important it is to study his life, even if it's studying it in the form of sound bites. And what I mean by sound bites is that the hadiths, his words and his actions have been given to us in sound bites, without references of the circumstance that's existing as these words or actions are being reported. But we do have books that have been written in terms of historical reference of his life, we should also study, so that we can study the person. We study the person. This helps us understand what the Quran is saying. You just can't read the Quran, just read it and make up things. The first idea is you want to strive to see what is it saying. What is the Quran saying? And the way it's written, there's room for, we could say, for ideas, to gain different ideas or opinions in terms of what it is saying, the way the Quran is written. Because you have metaphors and you have ellipses. These are two main features of the Quran that makes it challenging in terms of understanding what is being said. But it gives room for the intellect to work along with the imagination. Because it helps build, the Quran, it helps build a strong imagination. But it has to be accompanied with the intellect, meaning that the idea of thinking and being rational. This is like from our presentation yesterday of Father Abraham, our Father who art in heaven, because we're talking about in the heavens, the sky of our spirituality. When we start talking about the intellect, the imagination, the emotionalities, they're all working. These are all stars in the heavens. And Abraham is we could say, a personification of the Father in heaven. Okay. I hope you're staying with me. So let's see, where are we at now? So so instead of this had going back to the ma, the had goes back to the al-insan. So we would say, and we know what his soul whispers to al-insan, to him in terms of humanity. Instead of we know what his soul whispers to whatever it is that we know. And then, in this sense, this had is not translated. It becomes this whole phrase becomes redundant. If it reflects to the mad, go back to the mad. This is something we will learn in Balaga. What I'm talking now is not. It's kind of grammar, but in Balaga, this is something that we will learn as we study the science of Balaga. Many of us that are listening are in the Balaga classes. We have them every Thursday at 8:00 p.m. If you can read Quranic Arabic and you have a background with grammar already, I would recommend that you attend the Balaga classes every Thursday evening at 8:00 p.m. Balaga is a science that we rarely can find someone who will teach it. And it deals with the eloquence of the Quran. And these type of things we will get to in the Balaga class. Always important for understanding what the Quran is saying. Many of us go off the translations. And the English translations, and the translator has written in what he feels at the time. We have to understand that about the translations. I'm not saying they're bad translations. It's just that there's more, the Quran is saying more than what we're reading in the English translation. More is given to it, and you can see a lot more from reading from the Arabic text. That's our purpose, part of our purpose this morning for the students is to go over the Arabic and see how Arabic is defining Arabic. So, to continue, we say نفسه ونحن أقرب إليه. So himself, himself, and we are closer to it, or to him. بالعلم. بالعلم meaning in terms of knowledge. So let's go back and look at this. So in terms of knowledge, we're closer. And because we're going to look here at the context of the Quran defining itself, we go back to na'lamu. So it's saying we created mankind and we know. So we're closer to him in terms of knowledge, not close in terms of physical proximity. Because, as we're going to discuss, you can't put Allah in, we don't see him in the terms of occupying time and space. So here the equitable would not be so much the idea of time and space as it is in terms of him. That's the closest. We're closer to him. Meaning that Allah knows us. He knows us better than we know our own selves. Because He created the man. Okay. We'll talk about it. Min habli al-warid, and from the rope of the jugular vein. And this is the central focus here. And this is al-idafa. The idafa is, now this is from Jalalain, and he's doing a lot of grammar on this. Idafa is this idafa habli al-warid. This is called, the idafa means the possessive construct. And the possessive construct is the construct of this expression here, these two words. The two words of habli al-warid. This is the first term of the construct, the rope. I'm being literal. Literal first. The first reading should be literal. And then the next reading, you go back and look at the meaning in terms of the figurative speech. And then you have the second reading that we spoke about in another presentation. All of these presentations, I'm working to put them in a book, and you'll see the connections with the presentations. Or references you can make from one presentation to another. So Hafli al-Warid, he said, al-Idafa, it's the possessive construct, lil bayan, meaning it belongs to clarity. Clarity. So in this sense, if we say lil bayan, meaning that Hafli al-Warid, that this rope, it's the rope, and this rope is al-Warid, clarifying what the rope is. So the vein is the rope. Or now we say science, we're going to discuss it though. Science, today we would say in translation, the jugular vein. Maybe it's not the jugular vein. Maybe it's something else. Because science is still looking at it. So I got a call from a very scholarly woman, sister, woman, that was looking at this, and she was asking me questions on it, which I had to humbly say to her, I don't know biology. I did not pass biology classes. There was 2 classes I could not get by while I was in school. One was biology, and the other was chemistry. So if you have a question dealing with chemistry, I promised the school that the professor, if you pass me, I have to have biology and chemistry as two electives in order for me to graduate. I was a senior in college. I could not graduate. Without these two electives, I took them in summer school. I could not pass them for nothing to save my life. Biology and chemistry. So I promised them, if you just give me a C and pass so I can pass and graduate, I will not represent you in biology and chemistry for the rest of my life. I just won't pretend, I won't even pretend I know biology or chemistry. Just let me get out of here. That's all I'm asking. And they said, okay. So I have to keep my word that I'm not here speaking as someone who's well knowledgeable in biology. I have to say that. So I had to say that to her. You talking about veins and jugular veins? I'm not going to pretend I know about biology. Okay. So this is helping us here. This is rope, the rope of El-Warid. And religious language, I can say, I know it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, Habli El-Warid. But it's going to lead us to science, which we're going to discuss. But this is making it clear. Lil Bayan, meaning the clarity here, not so much of the veins rope with the possessive construct, what I want to show you. It's not the veins rope, because the second term possesses the first term. But it's the rope is the vein, that's Lil Bayan. I'm giving you a sense of the meaning of Lil Bayan. What El-Waridani, and the two ropes, the two veins, we say Ilakanu. So this El-Waridani, the two veins are, or what have you, are two veins. These are two veins. Bisafhatei anifi, on both sides of the neck, on the two sides of the neck. So here you can see he's getting to science. The science of what's being said. That there are two of them. And this goes back in context. I'm just pointing these things out to you, because there's a lot to be said and studied. That this goes back to El-Mutalaqiyani. Because there are two recipients. And there are two recipients that's on the left and the right side. They're sitting at a place where the thoughts, the whispers, the thoughts are being taken. And we have named, we're looking at these two places as the heart and the brain. Okay. I'm giving the hints here for what we're going to be speaking about. If I'm confusing you, I have to apologize. But I'm hoping you get something from it. So Allah affirms His energy and power over humanity. Man does for his own soul. What man does for his own soul. Examine what comes from ourself. We're to examine it. What comes from the self, the soul. The intellect should examine what comes from the self. And that the rope connecting the heart and the brain, Hablu El-Warid, it's a rope that's connecting the heart and the brain. The Quran advances science, and science advances the reading. The Quran advances science, and the more knowledge we come into, the more science knowledge in terms of science, ilm, that we have, the more advanced we become in reading the Quran. Language of science and religion. And 2 angels record our actions. This is what we're going, just the outline of what we're going to be presenting this morning. So, we're saying that of what we went over to give us the foundation of our presentation is that Allah affirms His energy and power over humanity. And I like to use the term energy. Energy more so than the word power. Because even today, the power companies are now calling themselves energy companies. They're energy. The idea of energy. And Allah is the energy of all energies. Like we talk about the life in one of the presentations, that He is the life. Life is a form of energy. So we have energy, Allah has energy. But our energy is just we could say a watered down aspect of Allah's energy. Though, be careful with the language, we're not Allah. But I prefer to see the idea, speaking of energy and power. Power is a form of energy. So He affirms His energy and power over humanity by His knowledge that encompasses all the matters dealing with humanity and how man is created. He's created out of this energy force. Man is. His affirmation is brought to man's awareness that Allah knows what subtle thoughts that man may have in the most quiet hour or moment as the whispers of the soul. As to the whispers of the soul. In our most quiet hour, as we're reflecting or what have you, the most subtle speech that comes from our soul to the brain, from the heart or the inner being, coming up into the intellect, forming words, Allah knows better than we do. And these thoughts, they may be good thoughts or they may be bad thoughts. Because the heart is being influenced by the environment. That's why, as we have said, that as a symbol, as a sign, the man grows hair on the chest, because it's an alarm system for anything that approaches his heart. We want to protect our heart and keep the heart innocent and pure as coming into this world. It's innocent and pure in the form of its original nature. But this nature now, when Allah brings it to another creation, we want to keep that purity. We want to maintain that innocence. So therefore, this environment that we're put into, this new creation that Allah says He brings us into, it's going to influence the heart. And therefore, many times we will not know the influences. We cannot detect all of the influences. So as a sign, man, he grows hair on the chest as an alarm system that we can examine what's approaching the heart. And the woman who not necessarily is pictured as one with hair on the chest is told to put the drop the shawl over the breast as her protection. And when this verse came, because men and women argue today because of the influence of the society that we're living in, argue about covering the breast. Is it this? Is it that? Do we have to do this? Do we have to do that? And what should this piece look like? And should it go over the head, around the neck, over the breast? So we get all these discussions. When in essence, you don't want to do it. Because your mind is on fashion. Fashion and fashion desires and how you're going to look. And you have no knowledge of the symbol of the clothing. The sign and symbol that the clothing gives. Therefore, when it comes to having culture and excellence in culture, we have very little cultural knowledge. So when the verse came, the believing women, they didn't have a lot of clothes. They didn't have a lot of clothes like we have. Our women have clothes. We have bulging closets full of clothes. We don't have a shortage of clothing. They had a shortage of clothing to the extent that they would take the apron and drop it over their breast. Now we're arguing about a headpiece because of a translation. The translation has taken us down a certain road. But they took the apron that they had and they put it over the breast. So the apron that was around their waist, they put it over the breast. So today you may find an apron that goes over the breast and down over the clothes, over the rest of the body. Just a thought. We know whatever man does, he does for his own soul. So this is the second part we're talking about here. Whatever man does, a word was missing, he does for his own soul. And he's very protective of his soul. However, Allah encourages us to do good, for the reward may be tenfold of what good we do. Whereas the bad may just be the consequence of that bad idea or action. We're rewarded for our good, we're rewarded for our bad. So Allah says, what is the reward for good except good? Then what is the reward for bad except bad? But the bad is only in reference to the bad that's done. The good, because Allah is encouraging good, the good could be tenfold more than the good that was done. It has been established in a sound saying of the Messenger of Allah, the President, peace be upon him, that surely Allah, the Most High, overlooks what is in my community as to what occurs in the soul, but he does not say or do. Let me repeat it. Surely Allah, the Most High, overlooks what is in my community as to what occurs in the soul. Something has occurred in the soul, has influenced the soul, but he does not say or do. But you don't say it or do it. So you can have a bad thought. A whispering thought can come up from the soul and you examine it. But you don't say it or do it. So Allah overlooks that. This tells us that we have to examine what comes from ourselves in the form of words, because we may not know the influence that has entered the soul. We do know that whatever good comes to us comes from Allah. And whatever bad comes to us is from our own self, or we could say from our environment. However, we are not a people who think that the soul is bad or evil, or that we are born in sin. As Muslims, we do not say that we come into this world as a baby and our soul is a sinful soul. No, the soul is a good soul. And then it gets around the sinners, and the sinners influences the soul, and the person becomes sinful. But Allah does not create us sinful. If He did, then why should we be judged based upon our wrongdoing? We have been teaching, and you have heard the saying that the Qur'an is a commentary on itself, or the Qur'an explains itself. Thus, the next verse where Allah says, "And we are closer to Him than the jugular vein," is an expression or phrase that is explaining the first phrase. So let me go back and show you. So I'm speaking now in terms of the Qur'an now, not the biology. So the first phrase is Na'lamu ma tuwaswisu bihi nafsuhu. His soul whispers. So the next phrase, Nahnu aqrabu ilayhi min habli warid, it must be defining the first phrase. So the jugular vein phrase is defining the whispering phrase. Keep that in mind. The Arabic expression, hablu warid here. This expression, hablu warid, the jugular vein, or literally speaking, the rope of the vein or artery, is a vein or artery that connects the heart with the brain. In particular, it is the jugular vein that transports blood from superficial parts of the head and skull. However, in talking with the person who studies this, she wrote a book about the heart. So if the book is still in print, the book is by the sister. Her name is Jeanette Hablullah. Jeanette Hablullah. Jeanette, the rope of Allah. Very interesting. Jeanette Hablullah. Yes, she attended the conferences, Mali conferences. Very scholarly woman. So you can find her book. She's written a book about the heart. I read it some years ago. It's a very interesting book. So this is her study. And perhaps you could read her book, and she could give, I'm sure, a better explanation of this that we're talking than I can. But just to just to say this today, and then it's your responsibility to do more research if you're interested. So she's saying, or she's studying that it's called the basilar artery, B-A-S-I-L-A-R, basilar artery instead of the jugular vein. The basilar artery that is part of the blood supply system for the brain and the central nervous system. So I have to say, I don't know. I'm giving you this information that you can go and research and study. But this is science now. We're talking in this reference, she's talking science about what is the hablu al-warid. But what I'm saying is that whatever the Hablu al-Warid is, it's in reference to the Yuwaswisu and Nafsuhu. And the question becomes, what transports the thoughts from the soul to the brain? What's the avenue that it takes? The more the Quran continues to inspire in the sciences, man will continue to grow and develop. And the more we continue to find new discoveries in science and creation, because that's what she's saying they're finding. The translation saying the jugular vein, but she said no, it could be something else. It could be an artery. And it's the main artery that transports blood. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps in the transportation of the blood, there are thoughts that goes with the blood, subtle thoughts. I don't know. These are premises that from reading Quran, that we get these ideas and we go and we study. We have to study it now. We're talking just from the science aspect. And we learn more and more about our own creation. Because within this verse, Allah is saying that He knows mankind better than He knows His own self. So the more we continue to find new discoveries in science and creation, the reading of the Quran becomes more advanced. And looking at the principal idea, the vein or artery is an advancement in science as it pertains to or is inspired by the reading of the Quran. We can see that science, or the Arabic expression, ilm. Ilm is the word for science. Ilm is the word for knowledge. Is a representation of a more spiritual idea or concept. So what we're saying is, even in studying the idea of this being an artery or vein, the Hablu al-Warid, it still becomes a sign of a higher universal spiritual idea. So what I'm saying is that the transportation of blood from the heart to the brain, or from the brain back to the heart, can be seen only as a metaphor to the transportation of thought from the soul to the intellect. One we may call the language of science, and the other we can call the language of religion. To continue in the language of religion, some of the scholars of the Quran says that Allah uses the word we are closer, using we are closer, as meaning that it is the angels or His knowledge. When Allah is saying we now, we know we is used in the sense of the royal we, when He says we created and we know. But some of the scholars will say that the we here means we in terms of the angels or His knowledge. When He says we are closer to man than his jugular vein. I'm using jugular vein because that's what you want to see in the translation. And that's why I didn't write a reflection. I have to reflect on it more to just write a reflection. So that's what Allah means we in terms of knowledge, or we in terms of the angels. Either one is representing Allah, or it's a part of Allah's creation when Allah says we. Because Allah Himself did not occupy space and time in the sense that we know them. We know them, not in terms of space and time. So I'm giving the idea here from the research of what scholars have said about the verse. Also, based upon the consensus of scholars, it is always the idea to stay away from seeing Allah in terms of incarnation or forming a unity with man. this is the consensus of scholars of the Quran, and they consistently always want to stay away from the idea of shirk, or such as the idea of 3-in-1 idea, or 99-in-1 idea. In Christianity, they speak of the 3-in-1. In Islam, we think of the 99-in-1. We say all 99 names equal to the 1. So 99-in-1, we have this idea. Because of the religion that we come from, we're coming from Christianity with thoughts in religion from Christianity. And as Muslims, we bring those thoughts with us. We bring those concepts and ideas with us. When we read Quran and study Islam, we think that we're studying and reading the same thing. No, both Islam and both Christianity have to be re-examined again. That's why we want to study the new reformer in religion that we have had amongst us. So seeing 99-in-1 or seeing 3-in-1 is a form of shirk. Thus, it is not necessary for Allah to say in the Quran, I am closer to him than his jugular vein. So Allah not saying I, he's saying we. Similar language is used in the Quran to the one who is approaching death. When Allah says, we are closer to him than you all, but you do not see. Again, it is saying that the angels are closer. The angels are closer. And just as Satan can touch and influence man, where the bad thoughts could be coming from, know that the angels are closer. Now, if Satan can get by the hair, by the alarm system on the chest, if Satan can get past the hijab or the khimar and get close, see, when you get to a person's heart, you've gotten close to that person. We're talking knowledge now, not physical proximity. Yes. When that brother can get to that sister's heart, he's close. He's in. So you're trying to get in, right? So what puts you in is that you have won her heart. You have influenced her heart. So if Satan can get that close, that he can touch man in his heart, then the verse is saying that know that when we say Allah says that we are closer, know that the angels are closer and can touch and influence man also. The two that are sitting at the meeting place, mutalaqiyani, we're talking here. The two that are sitting at the meeting place of subtle whispers of the soul are the two angels. They are prepared to write down every word uttered and every motion occurred as if they are preparing your scroll to be read in the future. This is Raqibun Atidun. So they are watchful, very watchful, and they're preparing and writing the scroll. This idea can be collaborated with science and creation, that our life, whether plant, animal, or human, is written within our own creation. Everything that we do is recorded. And it's recorded on our own creation. We see the rings of the tree. If you cut the tree, you can see there are rings on the tree that are written during the life of the tree. This is a sign for us. And we know that everything we do is written and restored in a memory bank. This is all science. We're going between science and religion. Or as microscopic chemical changes at the connection point between neurons in the brain. It's being recorded. In religious language, it is said that the two angels are on the left and right recording our words and deeds. The left and right being those things that we have done consciously and unconsciously, which connects with other presentations without me elaborating. Much of our behavior that we have inherited from our foreparents may contribute to our unconscious acts. Some of the Quranic scholars differ as to what is written by the angels, whereas only those things that require a judgment as to the reward or consequence are written and stored, for we have already mentioned that Allah does not take into account those things that come up in the mind but are not expressed or carried out. So Allah forgoes those things, so the angels evidently only write down those things that will be judged by. This shows that we still have a right to our own private thoughts and actions that we should not be judged and punished for. So even if it's on the subconscious side, so you have the two sides, you have the two ropes, you have the two veins, you have the two arteries. I'm speaking of going from science to religion, back and forth. If Uncle Joe has done something years ago in our ancestry, and that act is subconsciously somehow, we talked about all of this we've talked about in other presentations. Our genetic memory. In that genetic memory, we're saying is subconsciously something that an ancestor did that comes up in the soul. But it's not a good act. It's not a good word. It's not a good speech. Then, even or something that we picked up unconsciously. Something got past the alarm system. And we're picking it up unconsciously. That if we don't commit the act or say the words, then the angels do not have to write down what's in the soul in that sense. In closing, which they say from the message of Allah, the prayer and peace be upon him, surely the man who says or thinks something that is pleasing to Allah, but he does not think that it reached anyone. Understand what we're saying here, this idea. We're dealing with the subtleties in our thinking, the whispers. So a man who says or thinks something, he thinks something that is pleasing to Allah, but he does not think that it reached anyone because he didn't say it. Allah will write it down and keep it to the day of the meeting. This is showing another idea here. And surely the man who says or thinks something that is not pleasing to Allah, and he thinks that it did not reach anyone, Allah will write it down and keep it till the day of the meeting. So this is another idea in terms of what the angels write and what they do not write. But what we will be judged for, will based upon what we say or what we do. Alhamdulillah and Rabbil Alameen. I thank you for this time this morning. I hope and pray I didn't confuse you, nor did I confuse myself in this presentation, but I do pray that you have benefited and learned something as we learn every morning during this blessed month of Ramadan. I want to ask you to remember to make a donation, if you can. We need about $2,500 to do the roofing of the school. So every period, we ask that you give something, that you donate. It's not for me, and it doesn't go into administrative costs. all that we receive for the school and what we donate, it goes to the school project. And now because we're dealing with the roof, we have to have engineer and knowledgeable people. They're doing everything by hand. Inshallah, I'll try to remember to bring some pictures tomorrow to show you the school, let you see it. So the cost for labor is very little. It's very little cost for labor, but about $2,500 will help on the project of the roof, doing the roofing. And then after that, they're working on the doors and the windows now, and the plastering. So the other final touches, we will try to make a donation for that. But right now, $2,500 is not a lot of money. We've been donating as we go a little. So listen to what I'm saying now. Do not go to the bank and withdraw $1,000 and donate it. Don't do that. Each one donates a little. The type of money that you donate is the money that you don't need a receipt for. I'm going to show you the picture. If you go to the store, you may purchase something, and they will say, would you like a receipt? And you say, no, thanks. Because you're not going to do anything with the receipt. You don't need a receipt. That's how you donate. You donate a little. But a little is going to go a long way. A little bit from us will go a long way for them. So you donate a little. Donate $20. Donate $25. Donate $50. And the $50 is going to accumulate because of the numbers that's donating the $50. And we get the $2,500. It's not a lot. And so just a little bit. When we're judged by our actions, when we're being judged by our actions, when it comes to giving, one of us will say, now that I understand, I wish I would have given more. The other one will say, because we have the two sides now. The other side will say, now that I understand, I wish I would have given everything. But Allah does not want us to give everything. We're not asking that you give everything. We're asking that you give a little bit that you won't even miss. It won't touch you. It won't hurt you to give a little bit. And that little bit will go a long way. That's how in terms of giving is part of our religion. But I don't want to take the religion and take advantage of someone. That's not in my heart. To take advantage of someone. Teach the religion and take advantage and get money. No. I don't use monies from Mali. When people send donations from Mali, I don't use it on my personal self. So when you see me driving a nice car, like some of you saw me driving a very nice car, believe me, I didn't pay for it. But I make a way for my wife. That's my wife's car. I make a way for her to have that car because that's what she likes. That's what she wants. That's part of the marriage, is that she has to have a nice car. And this is in her heart. She has to have a nice car. She has to look nice and all those things. That's part of the marriage agreement. And I have to be able to teach this religion and study this religion with no interference, I don't come in the morning and say, well, I can't come here tomorrow because I got to go and do something with my wife, so forth and so on. Every now and then it happens with my daughter or someone because we don't have that agreement. But not with my wife. She doesn't interfere. That's the agreement. And if you're married, you know what I mean. The agreement is you don't interfere. You don't say, I can't do this, I can't do that. So I'm just saying to you, I have to be open and say these things to you because I'm teaching and you're learning. And I don't want to teach and you're learning, then I see where I can take advantage of you. No, we have a long-term plan working with the Africans in Ghana. And we want to help them. After we have the school built, we're going to be taking we'll take delegations there to visit. We're going to take delegations, maybe small delegations at a time to visit and help develop a relationship. And we're going to try to have a conference with the imams who have been attending the Mali conference that's been helping Mali to develop and grow. There's a group of imams. We want to have a conference there in Ghana with the imams there. We have a good relationship. Actually, I have a good relationship right now with the chief imam of Ghana. He's the chief imam of all of the Muslims in Ghana and people that's close to him. So I'm sure of we can have some type of conference with them and building our relationships. And many of them are listening now. But I don't want to express, I have to say these things in terms of the poverty or the standard of life that the Ghanaians that we're helping live in. They are sensitive to that. The world have made them the poster child of poverty, the Africans in general. And that's not good. That's not good. Some don't even want you to take that picture because you're going to take it and put it on some poster and show some poor child. That's not good. But you can't help. You can't help but to, once you've been to Africa, those of you who have been, and if you've gone in these villages, you can't help. If you're a believer, you cannot help but to think that I could do something. I can do something small. We can't fix the whole problem. We can't fix. Africa is huge. We're just talking about Ghana. We can't fix it overnight. But we could do something small that would be big for them. That's what we're doing. So we're trying to raise just a little bit. That's a little bit. When you look at the group, $2,500. And it's a small school. To us, it's a small school. It's not a big school. Not a 50-room school. Nothing like that. It's small. So we donate small. But everything they do is by hand. The space, it's in a small space. They don't have machines and trucks and things like that to do what they have to do. They have to use pulleys and things by hand. Everything is by hand. And they do their own labor. You know, Africa is the Mecca of labor. So, hey, the Africans can do their own labor. But some of them have to be paid because they have families and things and because of their time. But their type of pay is not like ours. With us, $2,500 won't even pay a union worker but a couple of hours. Just to lay a few bricks. After a couple of hours, he's looking for, not only is he looking for more money, but benefits, dental, vacation, all of that. So it'd be very difficult here to do what we're doing there. Because you don't have all of these things that we have to pay for. So just go to MuslimAmericanLogic.org. MuslimAmericanLogic.org. Click on the donate button. You don't have to look for a school or whatever. When you donate, in the comment, just put school in the comment. Donate a little bit. $25, $50, based upon your income, $100, something like that. Nothing big. Don't go to the bank and empty out your life savings, and then a tornado or something comes by and a school falls, and you want to know where did your money go. I'm going to show you where it goes. I'm going to show you the school where it goes. And then we're keeping the names of all of the people that donate because we're going to put metal plates. We're going to put the names on a wall in the school of all the people that have donated from America to help build a school. That's a peg that we are putting it back in the soil based upon that sign on the door that says the door of no return. That's what's moving me. I looked at that sign and I'm saying, wow, they are saying that once you go through this door, once the slaves go through this door, and Ghana's in West Africa on the coast, There are few castles. They set up that once you go through this door is on the beach. You're gonna be put on the ship, and you're not coming back. You're not to return. That's what the door says. And we're saying we're back. We owe it to ourselves to go back. Yes. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak.